Welcome to the Do Life in a Body You Love podcast. I'm Nikki O'Day, and we are going to talk about any and every topic that will get you showing up bigger and bolder in your life. Weight loss, relationships, mindset, it's all on the table. It may not come out real PC, but if you're sick of motivational rah-rah talks that don't lead to any real change in your life, then you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. What's up, ladies? Today's episode is going to fall very much outside of our normal podcast episode. I have my friend Jaime on the show with me today, and we were having a discussion about trying to find balance in your life and giving yourself permission to actually relax and take a breath sometimes. And how do we do that? And so neither of us are trained in any sort of psychological field, and yet here we sat attempting to psychoanalyze our own behavior and coming up with some practical ways that we could maybe learn to chill out a little bit. And so hopefully you may be mildly entertained by this episode, but also get some good practical tips. And if you do, then I'll consider it a win. So let's jump in and see how it goes. All right, friends, I'm so excited for you guys to get to listen in on this conversation between me and one of my besties. Her name is Jaime, and she is a fabulous human all around. She's gorgeous, if you're watching us on video, you can see that for yourself. She's super smart. She's a kick-ass realtor. In fact, I think she just got Rookie of the Year. Yes. Did you not? Yeah, like crushed it first year in, no team, just balling out of control on her own. She does everything 100%. She's like the best mom in the world. First thing she says when she meets you is, "Hi, my name is Jaime, and I'm a mother of twins." It's just part of her introduction. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. We were talking about stress and being go, go, go all the time. And some of the things that we were getting into while we were just having this private conversation, I was like, hey, this is actually really good for the podcast. So let's just hold up a minute and record ourselves. So you guys, me and Jaime plan to talk for about an hour. You may only end up with 10 minutes of appropriate content. I may have to edit so much because we're quite silly when we're speaking to each other. So we'll see. So Jaime, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad that we'll have an opportunity to reenact the conversation that we were having so that hopefully we can put it in like Jaime terms. So Nikki, you're always on, you're on top of the science, but I'm on top of like, hey, let's break this down into something that I can translate and then use every day. Cause I don't have the research and the science background. I need to be able to, well, the reason that we started the conversation was because one of those twins is like me, go, go, go. And so I need to be able to break this down into terms that she can use. So if she can use it, we can all use it.
Yes. Okay. So Jaime's twins, one looks exactly like his father, one looks exactly like her. And the one that looks just like her, the little blonde hair, blue-eyed girl, is 100% your temperament, but like mixed with a lot of my sarcasm. She's quite interesting.
It's weird. I'm not sure who came up with it, and if this might be one of the inappropriate things that you have to cut out, but it's like me and you had a baby. And then that's sort of, it's weird.
So this child is go, go, go 24/7. She's very, very into dancing and health and fitness. And she takes everything to the extreme. And so this conversation got started because we're talking about bringing balance to that. So for you ladies who are listening, finding balance is probably like the hardest piece of this, right? Like, how much do I push myself? How much do I back off? How aggressive do I need to be with my dieting if I want to lose weight? Well, we always think more is better. So in the case of dieting, eating less is better, right? That's not true. That's how we feel. In the case of exercise, well, if some exercise is good, then I should be going 7 days a week as hard as I can, jumping around on boxes until I throw up, or else it's not a workout, right? No.
That's my child.
Right. And so
which is what sparked this conversation. And sorry not to take over, but you said something about balance. And now every time I hear that word, I'm going to laugh because she's a podcast girl and a YouTube girl. And she's like a content girl is what I should say. And she'll take it all in. And what's cool about her is that a lot of us know what we should do, but how many of us actually apply it? She applies it. And so I keep telling, but who am I? I'm just mom. So I keep telling her about this thing called balance. And it's like she watched one podcast on balance. And now all of a sudden she says to me, we're like driving down the road in my car. And she was like, yeah, so I was listening to this podcast and I guess like balance is like really important. And I'm like, yeah, sure is. Tell me more about that.
Mom, Aunt Nikki, nobody's ever said this before. Nobody listens about it. You don't listen to me tell you about it.
Though the way that she said it, it was like the first time she had ever heard the word balance. And she was like, this is interesting. I'm going to dive into this and learn more about this foreign word called balance and see what I can come up with.
Okay, to be fair to your daughter, I tell you, you need some balance in your life and you don't listen to me either. Fair. So what is balance and why do we need it? Like to me, it's like one of those foo-foo fluffy words that like, we don't really put any weight to.
Yeah.
I need something tangible. So if somebody tells me you go too hard, you need balance. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. What does that mean?
There is no such thing as going too hard. This is how we live.
What are you talking about? 100% or nothing. Get out of my way.
Yes.
Yeah. But okay. So if we're talking about fitness, let's use that as an example. You can work out too much. Like we just said, you can diet too much. You can freak out about every little chemical that you come in contact with too much. Jamie.
This is where I live. This is the headspace in which I live daily.
Text messages. Is this thing okay for my skin to touch?
Working out, food, even stress. I'm stressed that I'm stressing too much. How do I stress less? Just stop stressing. How?
And this is why you have to balance things out. So if you're constantly stressed out, so here's what I'm going to get sciencey for a second. And then Jamie, you can tell me to shut up. Essentially you have two opposing forces of your nervous system is how you could think of it. You have what we call your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic, that's your fight or flight response. So somebody comes at you and you're getting ready to get in a street fight. You are either going to run away from this human or you're going to get ready to brawl, right?
Yes.
One of the two things has to happen. So what happens? You get this huge surge of stress hormones, epinephrine, all of those things, and your pupils dilate so you can see and you stop salivating and your bowels slow down because you don't want to have to take a crap in the middle of a street fight. That's a really awkward YouTube video that you're going to end up on.
Very inconvenient.
It could be effective. I don't know. But anyways, these are all the things that happen. That's not a bad thing. You need that to happen at times, but you also need the opposing force, the parasympathetic. So this is the slow down, chill zone. This is where you will start salivating again and your heart rate will come down and all of those endorphins or all of those stress hormones will chill out and your bowels can move because now it's appropriate for you to go take a dump. And like your body's just coming in Jamie's face. If you're not watching the video version of this, she's looking really excited when I talk about poop. But anyways, your body calms down. Okay. So neither is good and neither is bad. The problem that we have now is we're almost living in a mismatch with our environment and how humans have traditionally always lived. So in the past, you would have a stressor and there would be a physical exertion tied to that stressor, right? You are fighting with the neighboring tribe. There's like a little war, which was not a button pushing war. It was like spears and fists and like think Vikings, right? Like that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Spears and shields and
we have a shield and like there's this physical exertion component to it today, and then it's done, right? And then it's over. Exactly. You won or you lost. It's over either way. Now we have stressors that are like things that we just think about. Mm-hmm. There's no physical tie to it. There may be an end point. Maybe there's not. Maybe you just stress about every little thing. So if you're stressing about every little chemical that you're going to expose your body to, for example, well, maybe the chemical that you were going to be exposed to is bad. Maybe it wasn't, but you being revved up about it all day, every day is 100% for sure bad news bears for your body. So if you have a stressor, let's say you're going to go to a job interview and it's like really stressful and your heart rate's going in, everything's all weird. And then you get done. Well, your body still doesn't necessarily know to calm down, even though your mind is telling it to, because you didn't have a physical outlet for it. Right. So that's how exercise can help with stress. They think. I like that theory anyways. I don't think that's anything provable, but like it feels right. Sounds right. I'm going to go with it. So if you don't have this release of endorphins from exercise that have this calming effect on your body can kind of still stay all revved up. And then if you're busy just in your brain worrying about things all the time, right? Okay, so that's one form of stressor. That's keeping you sympathetically driven. Too much sympathetic drive is not good for you. Your heart rate's up all the time. Your blood pressure's up all the time. Your cortisol levels are high. What's that mean? Belly fat, ladies, which is where mine likes to go genetically anyways. So I definitely don't need to be in that stress response all the time. So you got to find things to bring it down. So yeah, if you need to lose weight, you diet. Yeah, if you need to lose weight, you work out. And it can actually help with stress, but too much of it, now we're tipping the scale.
Right.
All those things that are good to a certain degree are bad in excess.
Sure.
That's true of most things. Most things are good. The dose makes the poison, they say, right? Like you can drink too much water and kill yourself.
Right.
Like anything extreme isn't good for you, but that's really hard for us because we're on or off.
Yes, mostly on. I think what sparked the necessity, I think, for this conversation was that clearly like Lily was out of balance. And we didn't realize that until I just thought, oh, wow, she's just this really hyper energetic go-getter personality type. And then it was just like everything just came to a head one day and she just like fell apart in the car when I thought it was like she was just being dramatic about something small. And then as she gets going and talking, she's like, I don't sleep, I don't poop. This 30-day workout challenge I'm doing with my friend is so hard. Like she dances 5 days a week, but thinks that she needs to come home and then still do a workout. And it's like, Lily, you're not giving your body a break and you don't calm down. And so we need to figure out, like, we need to get to the root of like why it is that your body is responding in this way. And so when you and I were having this conversation, it came down to this sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And so it's like, what do we do? Just like anything, not if we can't prevent it, what are actionable steps that we can take to get it in check? Because we have to figure out this balance so that we don't have these recurring, like, we're good. And then all of a sudden we're not. And it's like catastrophic and we're not sleeping and pooping and we're falling apart and crying about it. When let's take the steps to prevent that from happening, but still stay healthy, like keep working out and do your health, goals and nutrition and supplements and whatever it is without going to the extreme.
Yeah, because you don't want to end up with some obsessive tendencies, right? Like body image issues. So, I mean, with young girls, I think you must have to be careful commenting about anybody's body, commenting about your own body, commenting about dieting. Like when we're making healthy food choices, it's like, hey, I'm just making these. I'd rather eat this because this is really good for my body, but not anything about the image or the look of the body, right? Because she's a dancer. And we know that dancers already get fixated on their bodies. And so we certainly don't want young women thinking that they have to look a certain way or obsess about their body image. Now, if you're somebody who just loves working out, but like this child is clearly saying like, oh, and I got to do this 30-day challenge. And I was like, what? Why do you have to do that?
Right.
So, yeah. So getting to the root of, well, why do you think you have to do that challenge? Like, I guess I would just ask her questions and be like, well, why do you want to do this challenge in the first place?
I think it comes
sometimes
down
it's
to
social.
Yeah.
I just want to do something fun with my friends, but also, does she really think she needs to be working out that much? Like,
I don't think so. I think it is a combination of my friend is doing this, so I have to. And it's also, but not it like in a social way. Like you said, it's something we're doing together. But I don't know why she's not giving enough credit to dance as a workout, and she feels like she needs to do a separate one. But I think it's also, I don't want to say comparison, but it does have a lot to do with the content she consumes. So she is my little free spirit child, even though she's very, wound up pretty tightly. She's also a free spirit, if that makes sense. So she's very driven, go-getter, but she also, like, her social media is full of like van lifers and people who are doing meal prep and people who are eating not vegan. She hates veganism. She can't stand it, but like real food, right? And they're making all of these like delicious, healthy meals. That's what she follows. That's what she consumes. And so she'll get to the point where, like, if I'm not making the meals that these people are making that she's following, she feels like, I don't know if it's like she's missing out or she's not doing enough or she's not doing good enough or something like that. And I think we all relate to that, whether it's as parents or whether it's with our own diet, our own schedules. Like, there is some place in our life, I'm sure, that most of us feel like we're not doing enough. And I think that might be where she's at. She's not working out enough. She's not eating healthy enough. She's not enough, essentially. And so it stresses her out. And for somebody, I think it goes two different ways. Whereas my son, he has a very mild, he has more mild mannered tendencies where he's just like, okay, if I'm not doing enough, then, meh. But like, she is like, oh, she's freaking out about not sleeping. And I go in her room and she's like doing out of breath, doing crunches at 10:30 at night because she didn't work out enough today or something. So I think it goes back. The root of it is like not being enough or doing enough.
Yeah. Which we know, binge watching YouTube and social media and stuff like that can absolutely cause that, right? Because you're seeing a highlight reel.
Right.
Like, these people don't work out all day and cook healthy all day. And how do you get people to see that? Like, I guess like this was such an eye opener for me when I started working out alongside women who have like these ripped bodies. Right. And you would think, oh, they probably like live on lettuce. And then I would see them eating an ice cream cone. And I'm like, oh, hell, if she eats ice cream, I'm fine. Like, nobody is perfect. Mm-hmm. Nobody eats perfect. That's not attainable. It's not even desirable to do that. So getting her or whomever to recognize that you actually need downtime, like, and why your body needs downtime, because you've got to get out of that sympathetic go, go, go constantly. So things like taking a warm bath, like if somebody's on a health journey, or if I'm trying to lose weight and somebody said to me, I think you just need a warm bath and a book, I would be like, you're stupid. I need to do pull-ups and not have any carbs. Okay. But but here's the reality. Some of the women that I coach, it's actually, you know what, we need to back off of all those other things. And you actually do need to just chill out a little bit because it's so important for your health and getting your hormones back in balance and all of those other things. And so maybe getting her to recognize that, like, relaxing is actually a health measure.
So are there steps to take that you can train yourself to relax and not feel bad about it? Because like Saturday morning, I called you and I was like, yeah, I'm on this podcast about how to stop spinning your wheels and slow down. And this lady's talking so slow, it's driving me crazy. I'd rather just spin my wheels. Like, slowing down. I'm like, no, thanks. I'll just keep spinning my wheels, because slowing down is stressful when you feel like, how do you give yourself permission to slow down when, whether you're a student, a busy student, involved in clubs and sports and has future goals you want to work on, or you're a mom or a single mom and you've got multiple kids and multiple jobs, and then also future goals? How do you give yourself permission to slow down and then not stress about slowing down? So you used a couple examples for me about, like, maybe Tony would be motivated by like human growth hormone, and when that's triggered or activated or whatever, and rest. And so I used the example with Lily. Your rest is actually where you're building the muscle. The working out is where you're breaking it down, and the rest is where you're building it. So if you could give us like some tangible, like you and I value and appreciate, tangible things that we can do to give ourselves permission to slow down and find value in that, so that we don't stress out about slowing down.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk through some and just try to come up with some different things, because I'm better with like a real life scenario with one specific client, and it's like working, and I can ask them a bunch of questions to work through it. But let's try to think of some just like random, here, this would be blanket statement for all people. Maybe this can help you be chill and be comfortable with it, because I understand that, like, I'm the same way. I'm very driven, and it doesn't mean I have I don't have my whole life together, obviously, but I'm trying. And so I feel like I always have to be doing something. And my husband's like, you never just relax. And I feel like I do, and whatever. But
totally cool. What do you mean? It's relaxing to get stuff done. It's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, for real. And to a certain degree, that's true. But if you tell somebody whose brain is always going 24/7, and they always feel like they have to be accomplishing something, to just go like sit in the corner and meditate, that feels like stress.
Yes.
Like I don't really want any part of that. Now I realize some of the things that I do are actually a form of meditation. But if you just say the word meditate to me, I think of like monk, clear your brain of all thoughts, which
I'm like, that's impossible. That's not possible.
No. And just sitting there makes me feel like, now what are we going to do? I'd rather sit in color or something. Like, why is this happening? Okay. So doing a little bit of a life audit can be helpful in coming from the perspective of understanding what health really is. So you have to have the background knowledge to know, if I'm stressed out all the time, this is what it's doing to my body. A lack of sleep, first of all, you could dive into that. I don't recommend that you do, Jamie, because you're going to freak out about it. But you can look up all of the data about what sleep deprivation does to people. And I don't mean sleep deprivation in the sense that like you stayed up for a full 24 hours. I just mean your sleep rhythm is off and you don't get adequate sleep on a consistent basis. Like they do work on night shifters who die typically years earlier than other people. There's higher rates of cancer. There's like higher rates of dementia and Alzheimer's and all of these things. And that's because your body has to have sleep and rest. Okay, so sleep's one piece of it, but if you're so stressed out that you can't even sleep, okay, so now this is another, it's all compounding, right? So if we can appreciate the fact that our health truly needs us to chill sometimes, and we're actually more effective if we're well rested. So if you have a bunch of tasks that you have to complete for the day, you've got kids, you've got a business, you're doing all these things, are you going to perform better if you got a good night's rest? And if you're well nourished and your brain's a little decluttered? Right. Or if you're wired on caffeine because you're trying to catch up from a bad night's sleep, and because you're go, you're just eating trash food because it's convenient because you don't have any time, and you're constantly falling for the trap of looking at your phone and digesting content. And now you're all over the place, right? And then what do? We start to try to multitask, which is not actually a thing. Your brain can't actually do two things at once. And every time that you're trying to multitask between different things, you're actually becoming less productive. There's a whole lot of information about that out there too. If you guys want to study how to be a more effective person, one of the blanket things that they'll tell you is stop trying to multitask. Like, because it's not effective and you're losing seconds every time you're jumping back and forth. So it's like, you just commit to doing one thing, get it done, boom, move on. Right. So
it takes some discipline for hyper ADD people.
It takes a lot of discipline. Yes. And I'm not saying that's where you have to go, but I'm just trying to paint these two different pictures of like, one is like this rested, fed, fueled person who's focusing. And the other is, I don't sleep. I'm stressed out. I'm trying to do too many things all at once. And I'm all jacked up on caffeine all day. And who's performing better? Like, person over here, the one that's all high strung, may be working more hours in the day, but are they being more productive? Because we confuse time worked with productivity, and they're not one and the same.
Correct.
So understanding that, like, oh, if I let my brain have what it needs and I let my body have some rest, I'll actually perform what I'm performing better in less time. I don't actually have to be working 20 hours a day. I could get this done in 8 and get the same amount of work done if I would just chill out and give my body what it needs.
I tell my son, slow is fast. And it's like, I use the example, and I think it sort of applies, like with typing, like he'll he doesn't do the home row. He types really, really fast. And I'm like, if you would take the time to slow down and learn to do this correctly, learn the system, right? I always go back to that word, the system, put some systems in place, learn the system. You could type way faster than you're typing currently, as something that you've taught yourself, like, this is how I have to do this now. You've just been doing it for so long that you think this is how I do this now. And you think it's going to take too long to relearn these other things, but slow is fast sometimes.
Okay. So I like that. And let's piggyback off of that. And this is not the exact same thing, but it just made my brain think of it, is setting up systems in your own day, not to this crazy amount where you're like a robot, but like figuring out things that bring you back into that parasympathetic space, that take you from fight or flight to the chill zone. And they don't need to be very long things. This doesn't need to be you go to the spa for 4 hours. This can be you start your day with reading your Bible for 5 minutes, but that set the tone of your day a lot better than immediately picking up your phone and checking work emails or social media. So it's, what are you giving attention to at the beginning of the day sets the tone that can make you a more effective person throughout the rest of the day, right? Things at the end of the day that help you relax and go to sleep. So whatever those things may be, I think a good first step is jotting down things that actually do make you feel a little bit chill, but don't feel like a quote unquote waste of time. So there's the trick.
Yes.
It can't feel like a waste of time for you, or it won't be relaxing to you. Knowing you need it helps it not feel as much of a waste of time. Understanding that it's making you a more efficient human will make it not feel like such a waste of time. If you study high performing people, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, all these guys have a morning routine. Mm-hmm. They're way busier than we are. They're very, very busy, high performing people. They all take a significant, like 30 minutes to an hour to start their day. Nobody gets their time. They have routines that they do. Why? Because it makes them better. They perform better. So if it's good enough for Tony Robbins and Tim Ferriss, it's probably good enough for Nikki and Jamie, and we can probably fit it into our day too.
That is one of the ways that I have, it's sad to say I have to justify this, but it is one of the ways that I have justified it, is to finally come to terms with the fact that I absolutely need this. If productivity and efficiency is something that is so high value to me, then what are the things that are going to make me more productive and efficient? And that is to chill out sometimes. And so I say, okay, then this is a priority. This goes on I'm a list person. I live by my calendar. I live by my schedule, and I live by my to-do list. If it's not in my calendar and it's not on my to-do list, it doesn't even exist. So I've legitimately put certain things in my calendar, and then and on my schedule each day. And so then I have to go and I'm like, I have a notebook right here. I like live by it, list after list after list. I can flip through this notebook, list after list after list. And so what I've had to train myself to do is classify things. So here's my top 3, long-term or big picture goals, which are obviously always for me, spiritual, family, health, and financial. So that's 4. So if it doesn't fit into any of those, then my wheels start spinning and I start getting crazy. And then I start making a list of all the things in my head. And then I look at my list and I'm like, oh my gosh. So for me, the system is to classify something and then to prioritize something. And so I give myself, I justify it, or I allow myself to do the things, even if it's not specifically stated on my list or specifically written into my calendar. As long as it's one of those top 3 or 4 things, I find value in it because I know that I need it, even if it's not on my list. I live by this thing and I can't be the only one. So systems, classifying it, and most importantly, if I value productivity and efficiency as much as I say that I do, then I need to know that there are certain activities on there that I have to allow myself to do, which is sometimes not doing an activity.
Working smarter, not harder.
Yes.
And having some downtime is necessary. Okay, here's how important downtime is. I preach this constantly. You guys are all sick of hearing me say it, but it's so important that God modeled it for us. Was God so exhausted after creating the world that he was like, I need a nap on day 7? No, he's God. It was a model for us. Then to take it a step further, he threw keeping the Sabbath on the same list as don't murder people. Like, I mean, I can think of a whole lot worse things than just not taking a day off that should have probably been on the list next to murder, but I'm not God and he didn't think so. He thought it was that important. So, and for those of you who aren't Christian and you're like, well, what does the Sabbath have anything to do with it? What I mean is, like, the Sabbath represents rest. So it doesn't have to be a specific day off, but it's telling you it's downtime. Why? So you can refocus, so your brain can rest from a Christian standpoint, so you can reconnect with God. You have to maintain that connection and that rapport if you're going to be walking the walk, right? But even from a secular standpoint, your brain needs the downtime. Your body needs rest days from workouts. If you don't ever even have a moment of boredom, this is another thing. I think we should all be bored on a regular basis. If you're not bored, because every time you're standing in line at the grocery store, you pick up your phone. Like, oh, I feel bored for a second. Let me see who's liking my Facebook post or whatever.
Awkward. I'll be the first one to say I'm usually on my phone because then I don't have to make eye contact with people and they're not going to talk to me and I won't say anything weird.
You are the queen of awkward face-to-face interactions. And that's why I like hanging out with you. But if you're never bored and you never let your mind wander and daydream and think things, how do you even know what you think? How do you even know what your opinions are? You're just regurgitating things you've read or things that you've heard other people say. Your brain needs time to process it and filter through it and think about things. And like, maybe in daydreaming, you'll come up with like, oh, maybe I was kind of being a tool the other day when I was talking to that person. Oh, all right. I could probably do better. Like, how do you ever have time for self-reflection and self-improvement if we're always digesting the content of others, which I'm not? I still listen to a ton of podcasts. Y'all should keep listening to mine, please. I don't want to be talking to myself, but I'm saying limit all of the data coming in, allow your brain to be bored at times. But getting back to like some steps that we can take. Jamie, that's fantastic. You prioritize things. What are my priorities right now? Okay. Well, one of the priorities has to be rest and things that bring down your stress response. Mm-hmm. It's got to be. And then once you recognize that it is a priority, it goes on the calendar. It gets penciled in. So whether that's you come up with a morning routine, which is hard when you have little kids that you're still getting ready in the morning. I get that. So maybe that's not it. But even if it's like a 3-minute thing, I think we can listen to somebody who's like a productivity expert and they're like, this is how my first hour goes. And you're like, I don't have an hour, so I'm just not doing it. Well, you can do 2 minutes. Like you start somewhere and you build the habit. It's something you do every day. Mm-hmm. And then if you can bookend your days, so you start it and then you finish it with something relaxing. There's this whole thing, like, you know how babies need bedtime routines?
Yes.
Okay. Guess what? So do adults.
I was telling someone the other day, I'm basically still a baby because I get grouchy when I'm hungry, cold, or tired. There's got to be something there. Like we're onto something.
We're a bunch of infants. But we try to pretend like we're not, and we try to pretend like we don't need routine and consistency and schedules. Here's the deal. If you do the same thing every night for X amount of time, everybody's different in how long this will take. It won't be immediately. But if you do the same thing every night, your body will start to know that means it's time to go to bed, and you'll actually have an easier time falling asleep.
Yes.
So, and it doesn't have to be something grand. It could be, this is the time of night where I turn off my phone. It goes away. I go wash my face and put my pajamas on. Yeah, right. You guys know that I always am in my pajamas. But for the rest of you who like keep your bras on until 10 o'clock at night, you go take your bra off and put your pajamas on. And maybe you sit and you read an actual book. 5 minutes, you guys. It doesn't have to be something extreme. Or I don't know. Like, what would be relaxing for you, Jamie? Blank stare.
Crickets. I don't know, because you're talking to somebody who the other day I watched a few episodes of this show on Netflix, which actually stressed me out, the show itself. But sitting down for an extended period of time, my kids were like, "Are you okay?" is everything all right? Are we okay? And I'm like, what? Why? And they're like, because you're sitting on the couch and you have been sitting on the couch for like over an hour. Are you okay? I'm like, and so that felt nice. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, this is new to me. To not like my reward system is literally highlighting things. Like this makes me feel almost as good as eating food. Like I feel so good highlighting things like I've gotten something done. And so when I made resting or taking time off or saying, you know what, I'm not a brain surgeon. So if I don't do the things on my list, nobody dies, and that's fine. And guess what? The dishes are there tomorrow. Dance class is there tomorrow. Basketball is there tomorrow. All of my clients who are looking for a house are still going to be looking tomorrow. And I just said, I actually like it almost became like I had to check my ego. Like, who do I think I am that my stuff is so important that I can't take a break to give myself? And then almost like some guilt crept in because I was like, this is the version of myself that I'm giving my kids. And the reason that I work so hard is because I want to be a better version for my kids, but I'm not even allowing myself to do the things that makes me a better version for my kids. It all came to a head. And I was like, something has to give at some point. It's not working. So honestly, the thing that makes me feel less stressed is also the thing that makes me stressed, my to-do list. So I started looking at the things that I've highlighted and gotten done and not beating myself up over the things that I haven't gotten done because they're all still going to be there tomorrow. I'm still a great mom. I'm still a great business person. I'm still not a great cook, but I'm still great at all of these things that are important that like, if I did none of the things on my list, I'd still be good at those things. So it really just came down to like allowing myself to get away from my list, do a brain dump when I start to go crazy, put it all on paper, and then chill out a little bit. And then when I have chilled out a little bit, I can go back with a different perspective and look at this list and be like, oh, it actually isn't that long of a list. I just thought it was when I was writing it. So I don't know if I answered your question. What are some of the things? I mean, for me, it's just giving myself permission. That's where it starts. I have permission to slow down and chill out a little bit. And I have a track record of 100% of surviving these stressful days. So like, just chill out a little bit. You're making things bigger than they are.
Yes. I love that. I love that whole little tangent that you just went on because that's perfect. It doesn't even need to be something super healthy, de-stressing, like doing some stretching. You sat on the couch and you watched TV and you let yourself do it and you gave yourself permission. Good.
Right.
Good. The fact that the kids were like freaking out that you sat down for more than an hour is telling, right?
And I probably won't do it again. Like, that's not going to be my thing. Sitting down and consuming TV is not going to be my thing, but it was just the fact that was the first time in literal years that I have just stopped, like go. It gave me a sense of like, oh, I actually like how this feels. I didn't think that I would. I'm not going to meditate for an hour every day. I'm not going to watch Netflix for an hour every day. I'm not going to take an Epsom salt bath for an hour I'm not going to do all these things every day, but for something, it was like something had to give I just had to feel it one time to be like, oh, this also feels productive because I feel good about myself. So, I'm still in the phase of like, I don't have it figured out yet. I'm like in the beginning phase of like, giving myself permission to chill out a little bit. And I have the reward that it feels good. It feels as good as getting things accomplished.
That's perfect. And that's all it has to be for de-stressing, you guys, is something not productive. Like, it literally just means, if you're a go kind of person, it literally means sitting and not being productive. Now, maybe that looks like a leisurely stroll for you. You want to go on a walk and that calms you down. That's fine if it's not you power walking, trying to get your heart rate up, right? It's a relaxing, de-stressing. I'm out in nature and I like this. It can be that. It can be TV. I watch so much TV since I quit my job and I love it. Now, I don't really think that TV is like the healthiest thing for you to do to try to go to sleep. It's not, because it lures you in and it makes you just want to keep watching, unless you're watching something reasonably boring. But like, you got some guilty pleasure show, you want to watch Real Housewives, like whatever, you do you, boo. That's great. I'm watching weird sci-fi stuff with Landon right now, and I love it. And yeah, I have no guilt about it. Like, I'm busy all the time. I can sit and do whatever I want in my downtime. That's the thing, not judging what it is that you want to do in your downtime. Now, if that's, I want to drink a fifth of whiskey every night when you're trying to like get your weight in check, well, that may be counterproductive. So you have to look at what is the thing you want to do and is it serving you? But if it is, have a glass of wine and watch some TV and that fits your goals, do it. That don't fit mine because I'd be all hungover from one glass. But
right.
The point is to just, as long as it's not something that's unhealthy, it doesn't need to be healthy. It doesn't need to be productive. It doesn't need to be some sort of self-betterment. Like, well, if I'm going to watch TV, I guess it should be a TED Talk or at least like a home renovation show so I can get some ideas. No, it's the point's to be mindless. If you want to read a book, I actually do love reading books about metabolism and behavior change. And that's relaxing for me. So I do it. But if I want to sit and watch or read a book about vampires, which I also love, great. What am I learning from that? Nothing. That's the point.
Right.
You can't be learning all the time.
Yeah.
That's hard for me because I like to learn.
For sure. And two things come to mind. So it's almost ego driven to think that you just have to be doing something all the time because you're really making that big of a difference if you know, whatever it is that you're doing. And then it's also like, don't be a martyr, like give yourself a break, like you don't have to be like, I joke with my kids and sometimes I'm kind of serious, but I'm mostly joking. And I'm like, what do I look like? Cinderella? Like I was just put here to like do all of your chores and your laundry and your dishes and your, meals and drive you around. And it's like, you're not Cinderella. Like you can stop doing for others and even for yourself. Like sometimes it's just, I don't know how to put it into words. Like I told you, this is new to me. Taking time for yourself, allowing yourself to stop, go, and stop stressing. Like we joke, I live on cortisol and caffeine and adrenaline. Like that's just how I survive. That's just how I get by. And so for me to sit down was like, what is this? I just purchased this couch. I think I'll sit on it. It's like, it's not just a living room decoration. I sat down on it and I was like, oh, this is how this feels.
This is why people do this so much.
Right.
I feel so leisurely right now. Like who's going to come feed me grapes?
Right.
I'm actually sitting down for once.
Yes, exactly. I could do this more often.
There's so much good stuff in there. One, it is ego driven. The other thing it can be is trying to prove your worth.
Yeah.
So, people, okay, what am I trying to say here? Listen to me all. Okay. So on one end, you don't want to be the lazy person that just lives on the couch, right?
Yes.
And doesn't live a purposeful life and they don't go out and conquer the world and blah, blah, blah. So you don't want to be that person. So then you go too far in the other extreme. And you're the person who has no fun. And like, so then what are you doing it for? I like to bring everything back to, well, then why are you doing it?
Right.
Well, I want to have a productive life so that I can make enough money to like give my kids a good life and enjoy things. Well, you bought a couch and you just sat on it for the first time a month, or you bought it a month ago and you just now sat on it. Like, what'd you buy the nice thing for? Like you have to be able to enjoy the things. The things can't be the goal, right? Or the accomplishment can't be the only thing that there is to it, because then once you achieve it, then what's there? Like, this is why people reach the top of the mountain and they go commit suicide, not to be harsh.
Yeah. They're like, and wow,
the joy is not found in that.
Exactly. I think that that's an important piece too. You say it's like your worth isn't tied in that. And so for me, that sparked I think this whole thing started because you and I have had so many conversations about this. And I'm like, I know that I've always been a driven person, but I've not always been like this critical of myself. And where did this come from? And so for some people, I think it's a trauma response, whether it's to a toxic relationship, whether that's romantic or familial. It can be a trauma response and it can be a control thing where it's like, I'll just do everything. I'll just do it all. I'll just do. Then I don't have to stop and think about my thoughts and my own opinions. I don't have to spend time with myself. Somebody can't tell me I'm not doing enough because I'm doing more than anybody else that I know. Somebody can't say this about me. Somebody can't hold this over me and somebody else can't dictate, I'll just control everything myself. But ultimately that is false. Also, that's another story that you're telling yourself that isn't true. I don't care who you are. You have 5 minutes 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And not only should you, I mean, it's not even a matter of, I think we started this with, weight loss is really the main topic. I know that that's your main thing, but it's an overall well-being thing. Like you must, if whatever excuse that you're telling yourself or reason that you're giving yourself why you must be on 100 at all times, is that for that very reason is actually why you shouldn't be. Whether it's your kids, your job, your home, someone in your family that you're taking care of, your future goals, whatever reason that you have for why you have to be on 100 all the time, that's the exact reason why you actually shouldn't be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So on one hand, it's, are you proving your worth? Are you proving you can? But then you kind of tied it into escapism, which would be different. But some people's escapism is alcohol. Some people's is gaming to an excess, like the guy that lives in his mom's basement and just plays video games all the time and doesn't have a job kind of thing. That's escapism. I don't want
something you're good at.
Yeah. And it's something that takes your mind away from real life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to deal with real life, so I'm going to do this. Well, productive people do the same thing. They're just doing it with things that the world praises instead. But the motive can be the same reason. You don't want to sit and face previous trauma, or you feel uncomfortable sitting and relaxing because you've never done it before, or whatever it is that you just don't really want to think about. And so if I'm just go, and I'm doing all these productive things, then it's fine. It's not actually fine if the reason's the same reason as the guy sitting in the basement playing video games all day. Right. And that's not every productive person, but it can be a form of escapism. For you and I don't think this is necessarily true about me, but maybe it is. We were both young moms. Mm-hmm. We're both also very stubborn people who we're very like independent. I don't need nobody. I got this myself. Then we had babies young. And so it was probably like, no, I don't need anybody to help me. I've got this. Like, So maybe we're out trying to prove ourselves. I don't really think that's it, but it could be. Who knows? I've never thought this deeply about it.
I think sometimes I do feel like I've got something to prove. So it's like, whatever I assume that you might think about me, I'll just go ahead and prove you wrong before you've even thought the thought. I'll just prove to you that I'm not that person, just because, whatever these things are that we tell ourselves that we're so certain other people think about us, when really people are not thinking about us. They're thinking about themselves.
Which is ego also, thinking that everybody's running around thinking about you. No, they ain't, because everybody else is just as self-centered. Right. And like, I harshly tell like you and some of our other friends all the time, oh, well, what that person thinks about you is none of your business.
Right.
It's none of your business.
People's opinions are formed from their own, experiences, personality traits, thoughts, whatever. So even if somebody was running around thinking those things about you, okay, and it must be true then? And it's your job to prove them wrong? What?
No. How does somebody else's thoughts about you affect your life?
Yeah. And so then what are you going to do? Prove everybody wrong? And everybody has different thoughts about you. So you're just going to go proving everybody wrong while you're driving yourself crazy and never sit down on your couch, and your kids think something's wrong with you when you do? Calm down.
No, it's very freeing to not give a crap what anybody thinks. Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree, we all do. It's not like I totally don't care, because then I'd probably be a jerk.
But that is where you get your value, your worth, your validation. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
I think I've started to care more, because I kind of was a jerk when I was younger, like a lot of jerk.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm still mouthy. It's just about things that aren't like people and hurting their feelings. Still mouthy, but not mean. Mouthy, not mean.
There you go. Outspoken, but kind.
Ish.
All right. So let's reel this back. So if we're trying to be less in the fight or flight zone, and we're trying to chill out a little bit more for our aggressive type A women listening, valuing the downtime, because if you don't value it, you're not going to do it, and it won't feel good and relaxing. It'll feel bad if you don't value it. You'll think it's a waste of time. Mm-hmm. And you'll feel guilty and you'll beat yourself up about it. So I'm not a psychologist. You probably got to sit and work through some of the mindset issues there if you truly just can't relax.
Yeah. You have to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Right? If you just can't calm down, why am I feeling this way? And is this true?
Yeah. What is it that I think I have to be doing right now? I love to ask myself why, like a toddler, 1 million times. People who I coach know this. We dig deep into everything.
Reverse engineer everything.
Yep. So I feel bad if I'm going to sit down here. Why? Because I feel like I should be doing something productive with my time. Why? Well, because I have a lot to do. Well, doesn't everybody have a lot to do? Yeah. But don't you need downtime? Doesn't your body need it? Well, yeah. What is the thing that you think you should be doing? What is the one thing that's just like, oh, if I don't take care of this right now, my whole life will fall apart. Oh, nothing. That's what, nothing. I mean, there may be once in a while. Okay. But not usually. So one is valuing the downtime. And this, going back to Lily, is getting her to value rest days and not constantly be working out, understanding that it's actually healing for her body to have the downtime. So a more effective challenge for her and her ambitious friends, instead of doing workout challenges, would probably be do a meditation challenge or
challenge.
Yeah. Or
no electronics challenge.
A no electronics challenge, a book club. Think of something cooler to call it, because they're going to be like, you guys are boomers and you're stupid and we don't do book clubs. But it has to be a stupid teeny bopper book about vampires or Harry Potter or whatever. Like it's got to be something nonsensical that they just sit and they enjoy, or I don't know what it is, but something that's more of a relaxing thing. And get her to have a challenge about that, but whatever. So valuing it, then figuring out what are the things you want to do to relax. What things can you do to be mindless, to not be learning? And if learning is relaxing for you, then by all means go ahead, but keep in mind that whole information overload piece of things. So for me, sitting and reading a book about nutrition is actually relaxing for me. So I do it. But if you're constantly processing information because you think that you have to, I think that that's different. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do you think so?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. So sometimes I almost said this and I didn't, because it was like, nope, that's going back to my list. If it's one of those buckets. So like if I'm going to sit down on the couch, well, I should read a devotional, or I should read this book that I have been reading, or I should be watching I can sit down and I can watch a YouTube video on investing, but that's not relaxing because that gets my wheels turning. And then I start taking notes and then I start running numbers. And then, so, I would say to that end, give yourself grace. So if you're trying to figure it out, one, you value it. Two, you figure out what is relaxing for you. Don't just sit down on the couch one time and be like, nope, that actually stressed me out, so I'm done trying to relax. No, find something else. Give yourself grace. It's trial and error. Figure it out. One, you value it. Two, then take some time to do the trial and error and figure it out. Sit with your feelings and see what feels good. Does this feel good, or does this stress me out more? Maybe do it more than one time.
Yeah, because who knows? You might have just been really revved up that day.
Yes.
Or something was going on. It doesn't mean it was the activity. For, like you mentioned, devotionals. For me, it is very calming to be in the Word. I love reading my Bible. I'm obsessed with the Bible. And I have Bible studies on this website that they do them for free. And so that's learning, but it's also relaxing for me. So yes, it's on my to-do list because my spiritual it's one of my buckets for me too. So it is technically a to-do list thing, but it is a relaxing and calm thing for me. I guess a question you could ask yourself is, like, let's say what you want to sit and do to relax is sort of educational. Are you doing it because you're very intrigued and you can't wait to open it? Or are you doing it because you feel like it meets a requirement from your list?
Right. Those are two different things. You have to, or you want to.
Right. It's the same activity, but what's the push to do it? Right. And if the push to do it is because, well, it'll feel like I'm accomplishing something, then no, that ain't the thing. And then 3, I think, would be scheduling it.
Yeah.
So you have to value it. You got to figure out what the relaxing things are, and then you got to actually plan it, or you ain't going to do it.
Because that's the permission part too, along with valuing it. If you schedule it, you're like, I made this appointment with myself. You wouldn't cancel an appointment with your kid, I hope. You wouldn't cancel an appointment with your boss. I wouldn't cancel an appointment with a client unless I had an emergency. I am as valuable as my children, clients, boss, friends, so value it. And then if you schedule it, you've given yourself permission. You've made the time for it. So what other excuse do you have? You value it, you enjoy it, and you've made time for it. So do it.
Absolutely. To me, there are non-negotiables. these are things that if you're not doing them, eventually you're going to end up sick and you'll have to do these things. You won't be able to keep going as hard as you are. And it's eating healthy, because you have to eat to live. It's a requirement to be on the planet. You will die if you don't eat food. It doesn't take that much more effort to make the food be reasonably healthy. It doesn't have to be a Pinterest perfect meal. And you don't need to be cooking 3 times a day. You can batch cook, like whatever gets the job done. You should still enjoy your food. You guys know I'm not a food zealot at all. The women who I'm coaching, they eat all kinds of good things. They're always amazed at how not strict I am about food. But the point being, the majority of the food should be healthy food. If you don't have time to spend 15 minutes in the kitchen to make yourself a healthy meal that you can eat for the next 3 days, because that's how simple it can be. And if you don't have the time for that, you don't have time to pick up anything else on your to-do list.
Right.
Everything good and worth doing isn't good and worth doing in this moment. So you're a young mom who also works outside of the home, but the school is always guilting you that you need to come in and be the homeroom mom and do the PTA stuff and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but you don't even have time to move your body to make it stronger, feed you and your kids healthy meals, no time for scripture if you're a believer, or no downtime at all, then you actually don't have the time to give them. So don't feel guilty saying no.
Right.
So it's food, it's moving, it's sleep and rest, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. Now, the social fun piece doesn't need to be a daily thing. Obviously, I don't go out and do something fun every day, but it needs to be in there because we are social creatures. And if the shutdown showed us anything, it's that humans don't do good in isolation. Even if you're an introvert, you require more alone time than an extrovert, but you still require socialization. Mm-hmm. It is a very big misconception that introverted homebody types have, is that they don't need any socialization. And that's not true. We all just need varying degrees of it. So figuring out who you are and how you are, and allowing yourself to go out with the girls, or grab a friend and go golf, or go out and have a lunch, or like whatever's fun and social for you. It's got to be in there. So if you're not doing those 4 things, that's my own opinion, then everything else gets told no, because you see free pockets of time on your calendar and you think, well, I could really do that for this person. I could really volunteer at my church. I could really pick up this extra shift at work. I could really, no, not if you're not doing those things, because those things aren't on your calendar. So you look like you have all these pockets of time and you're just making it rain, giving them away to everybody. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You don't actually have any of that time to give away, because all of those things are requirements. They're baseline requirements to living a healthy life. And if you don't do them, you'll end up ill, and then you won't be able to do anything for anybody. So you schedule them. If you live and die by your calendar, it goes in. This is when I meal prep, or at least you have it on a list that's like, I don't volunteer my time until I've met these things, right? This is going to be my workout time. This is my time to read, whatever it is, put them all in there.
Mm-hmm. I actually had a pastor cancel an appointment or reschedule an appointment with me once, because he made this appointment with me. And then it was like, he had this 5-second guilt. And then he called me back and was like, I'm sorry, I have to reschedule this, because I actually have an appointment with myself and I was going to cancel it, but I really can't, because I used to be 100 pounds heavier and now I'm not 100 pounds heavier. And it's because I kept my appointments with myself. So I have to keep this appointment. Can you come in an hour after we were originally scheduled? And I was like, yes, no problem.
That's amazing. And I love that.
Right. And I was like, also, thank you for the, like, all of the thing, the permission to do the same for myself, and the fact that it was my pastor who knew that I was coming in to talk about something regarding, it was obviously a faith question, not questioning my faith. It was just something that only a pastor I thought could answer for me. And it was just like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not canceling my appointment with myself.
I love everything about that. Now, like when I'm working with women on kind of cleaning up their schedule a little bit, making time for themselves, I usually tell them not to explain it to people, but I love that he did, because this was really a teaching moment for you. Mm-hmm. So it's really great that he shared. But typically I tell people not to explain. It's just no. It's a complete sentence. I love the word no. I've always loved the word no. I married Josh O'Day so that my last name would be O, because now my initials are N-O. My initials are no. And that's what you're getting from me if I don't have the time to do it. And I'm not telling you why. So it's not like, and I used to explain myself all the time too. People at work in the hospital setting, we never have coverage. So we're always begging each other to work. And it's usually, no, I can't have this going on with my kids, or no, I can't, we're going to be on vacation. So then what happens is if you don't actually have something scheduled that day, but you know, there's a lot of things you need to take care of in your personal life, or you just need a downtime day, you end up saying yes, because you don't feel like you have a valid excuse to give this person. And it's like, you don't actually have to explain your time to anybody. It's just, oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't. Now, if you want to pick up shifts for people and be nice and helpful, great, but only if your needs are being met.
Yeah. Or if one of your current main goals is getting some extra hours at work because you're working towards something financial, sure. But other than that, my go-to is I have an appointment. And I learned that in real estate because people don't care. Like, I'm not going to say, I can't show you this house because my son has a soccer game. Any normal person would be like, oh, that's totally understandable. I'll see you after the soccer game. Anybody looking for a house becomes not a normal person. They become a very emotional person and they don't give a crap about your kid's soccer game. So I have an appointment. And so everything is, I have an appointment. I don't tell you that it's my kid's soccer game. I don't tell you that it's, I'm sitting in my bed reading my devotional. I don't tell you that I'm watching Netflix. I don't tell you that I have a different show. I have an appointment. Whether it's with myself or someone else, I have an appointment.
I love that. Make appointments with yourselves, ladies. That's how we'll say number 3. Instead of scheduling it, it's make an appointment with yourself to do the things that you know that you need to do for you to bring yourself out of that sympathetic drive all the time. And when it comes to the planning, what it is, kind of think about what does your brain and your body need? You may need to be scheduling more time moving or meal prepping or those types of things if you're trying to lose weight. If you're working out a ton already, or let's say you're working a lot of hours, is this the best time for you to go sign up for marathon training? No, because your body is not going to get the recovery that it needs. So it's kind of like looking at your whole big picture, what's going on with you right now. And that can help you figure out, do I need more movement, less movement, more food, less food, more quiet time? Like, what do you need? For a lot of us, we do need more quiet time, whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah. I always tell my kids to zoom out. 2 different ways to look at things. Zoom out and look at the big picture. Is this serving or is it, is this giving in or taking away? And then also too, I'm like, all right, pretend that this conversation that you're having with yourself, you're having it with me or your sibling or your best friend. How are you talking to that person? Talk to yourself the same way. Give yourself the same advice and follow it than you would give somebody else. Why is it that we're always treating ourselves different? Like, we would never treat other people the way that we treat ourselves. Why do we do that?
I love that because I say the same thing. And I'm like, look at your calendar. If you tell me that you do enough for yourself or that you don't have a stressful calendar, look at it and see if you'd be okay with your adult daughter having that same schedule. Because we think, oh, but I'm different. I have to get all these things done. No, but if it was somebody that you loved and you were looking at that calendar, you would be like, babe, you're running yourself into the ground. You gotta put some margins in here. Mm-hmm. So would you be okay with it being Lily's calendar, the way that you're running your life?
Another thing, kids don't do what we say, they do what we do. So you have to model it. So no, the answer is no, I wouldn't. And so whether that's something big and just like about, whether that's something big or small, you have to model it. I don't want my kid doing this. I'm not going to do it. Kids do what we do.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a good litmus test for those of you listening and you don't have little kids at home or whatever. It's like, okay, well, if you did have kids, would you be okay with this? How about your sister? How about your mom? How about your best friend? If you looked at her planner, if you're telling yourself you have balance, there's that word. If you're saying I have balance, and then you look at your calendar, is that a lie? And if it is, start making slow changes. I'm not saying go burn your life down all to have a day of rest and quitting my job and moving to an island. No, but you can start small.
You could do that. I'm not opposed.
Will you find me a house on an island, Jamie?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I think this was a super good talk.
I wondered how it was going to go. It's either going to be great and to the point, or it was just going to be rambling and you were going to not even have a title for it. Cause what did we even talk about? All the things,
Well, no, I am going to have a title for it now. And we actually just came up with 3 steps that we weren't even planning to come up with. So I love that. So let's recap really fast. So if you know that you are go, go, go all the time, right? And that is not good for your body, but you are not sure what to even do to start heading in the other direction. You don't got to get it perfect, but let's take some steps. 1, see the value in taking time for yourself. 2, find out what things can even bring you some relaxation. They don't have to be grand gestures, although they can be, but little things that you can sprinkle into your day that can kind of bring down the stress, calm you down, things that are good for you, all that jazz. And then 3 is setting those appointments with yourself to get those things done. So that's awesome.
4. I thought there was one after that. I don't know. We just rambled a lot. So I hope that you guys like that and that you got some benefit from it. Jaime, thank you for doing this. I know that you are super crazy busy. So I'm super glad that you agreed to do this with us because I think that the listeners will probably have gotten a lot of value from this. So thank you, friend, and go crush it out there in your real estate world today. Well, thank you. Same to you. Hopefully we can do it again. Hopefully you're crushing it in your coaching programs. I know I've had tons of success in them. I started with one of your free 5-day things. And then I was like, I need Nikki to get me into shape some more. And I catch myself doing things here and there, small things. And I'm like, oh, that's a Nikki thing. She would be proud of me.
Yeah. I love that when my previous clients send me messages and they're like, oh, just did this. And I'm like, yep, you learned that in week 2.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've had lots of success in your program. So I hope others have found the same and you've got a good thing going. So keep it up.
Yeah. We have like 100 ladies starting a 5-day free challenge today. So it'll be good.
Good.
Fun times.
Well, let's do this again on something else we can ramble about.
For sure. Whatever you guys want to hear me and Jaime ramble about, just throw some topics out there and we'll do this again.
If it has anything to do with stress or children, health, nutrition, fitness, I'm sure that Nikki and I have discussed it, and it's probably been, you should have 2 versions of your podcast. You should have like the appropriate one and then the like really aggressive sailor swearing, like here's if you're not easily offended and like want to laugh one.
I mean, to a certain degree, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm always trying to clean up my mouth. Like, that this has been a work in progress for me. And it's surprisingly way better than it used to be, but sometimes I get going and it ain't right. So yes, that is something that I'm always working on, but yeah, I'm not opposed to things not being totally PC here. That's fine by me.
Yeah. Let me one of those because I'm
all right. Thanks, friend.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. It is my mission to give women back the confidence that they need to show up bigger in their lives. Right now, the world more than ever needs women who are on fire and living their purpose. If you want to join me in this mission, there's a few things you can do. 1, you can share this podcast with the women in your circle. 2, you can join me in my Facebook group, Simplified Fat Loss, or you can subscribe to my newsletter at nikkioday.com.